WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert talked with GameOn's very own Taylor Felix in September 2022 about an exciting WNBA postseason, which ended with the Las Vegas Aces winning their first WNBA championship. Check it out.
Joining us today on Game On is WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Cathy, welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Taylor, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
How exciting was it for you to watch the WNBA postseason culminate in the Aces going home with it all?
Well, we knew there was going to be a first-time champion, no matter whether the Aces or the Connecticut Sun won. So obviously the Aces had so many accolades this year with Coach of the Year, Most Improved Player, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. Chelsea was the MVP of the Commissioner's Cup. They won the Commissioner's Cup. And then obviously Kelsey with MVP of the All-Star game. So they had so many accolades before going into the playoffs, and they had a great run. But Connecticut was really resilient. It was a really physical series, and couldn't be prouder to be handing out the trophy.
Well, you mentioned it. Chelsea Gray was the MVP of the finals. What stood out to you about her postseason performance?
Well, as a former point guard myself, I'm always very interested in watching the point guard, watching them run the offense. They're basically the general out there on the floor. And look, she made tough shots. She actually made more shots when she was guarded. So it was really just an amazing display of unselfishness, but also just clutch play with making some of those tough shots, not only yesterday, but throughout the whole playoffs.
Yeah, no, she was incredible. Not only her, though, A'ja Wilson won her second career MVP. Can you just kind of talk about the impact she's had with the Aces?
But A'ja's been such a great representative of the league. She's got so much energy and so much leadership that she's shown since 2020, when we spent a lot of time in the bubble together, and I got to hand her that MVP trophy there for the season, and then obviously culminating this year with the championship. So, you know, coming off her South Carolina heritage and roots and into the W and the Aces, and really putting this franchise on the map, because it's still a fairly young franchise.
Yeah, well, we can't talk about the Aces without talking about Becky Hammon. Her first year as a head coach, she takes the Aces to the championship. How special was that for you to watch?
I mean, really special. Obviously, her coming into the league and not really coming in to coach until training camp, because the Spurs were still playing when we got into training camp this year. So, you know, just her ability to take that talent that she had and maximize it, having played in the league for so many years and having been a guard in the league, and just, you know, really proud of her and doing it in her first year, and really, you know, building a winning culture in Vegas and helping bring their first championship.
Well, it was such an exciting postseason for the league. If you could, do you have like a favorite moment or your favorite part about the postseason?
I would say just really proud of the product the players put on the court this year. I don't think I've seen better basketball on the court. I mean, that Vegas-Seattle series could have been a finals. The level of play, and Sue Bird's last year, and Breanna Stewart being one of the best players in the league as well, and just you know, Jewel Lloyd and everything that was going on in that series. And, you know, I just think the quality of what the players are putting on the court is just amazing.
We're here with WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Cathy, I want to get into some WNBA hot takes, and I have to start with Brittney Griner, who's been detained in Russia since February. What has your contact with Brittney been like, and how is she doing?
Yeah, so she's wrongfully detained as deemed by the State Department, and we've been in contact with the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, the administration. So as you know, Taylor, it's an extremely complex geopolitical, diplomatic, legal situation, you know, from the start here. And I've written Brittney several letters throughout the season that then get printed and given to her by her Russian lawyers, I'm sure reviewed by the Russian government. But and then, you know, recently, I think as I previously reported, she actually wrote me a handwritten letter back. Obviously, she doesn't have access to technology like we do to send emails, but I did receive a handwritten letter. It was really inspiring to me. She was grateful for, you know, how the league has remembered her, and she knows that the players are thinking of her, the league's thinking of her. And it's just such an unfortunate and complex situation. And I know you probably say that President Biden met with Brittany's wife, Sherelle. They were able to speak directly about, that it's like a full court press of trying to get Brittany back first, number one, safely, and second, as soon as possible.
Well, thank you for that update on Brittany. We really appreciate it. Next, you recently announced Canada, a preseason exhibition game. It'll be the WNBA's first international game since 2011. Why is an international return so important to the league?
Yeah, we're one of our pillars of our strategy is to globalize these players and make them global household names, not just here in the U.S. So one of the ways to do that is to expand outside the U.S. Preseason games are a good opportunity to do that. We have a nice footprint of our season next year. We're going to go to 40 games, but we don't have the Olympics or the FIBA World Cup next year. So we're excited to bring our first, at least since I've been here, certainly our first edition of global games. And obviously it's important. Canada has a lot of interest in women's sports, women's basketball, hockey, and soccer, all very popular in Canada. So I've long admired what the NBA has done around their global games platform, both in Europe and Asia, EMEA and Asia. And so I hope that we can expand it and really globalize our game, because we know we have lots of fans around the globe that want access to the players playing at the highest level here in the WNBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of international play, the new prioritization rule could really affect some players in the WNBA. Can you elaborate on that rule and just kind of explain why it is so important to the WNBA?
Yeah, so for those that don't follow the W very closely, the season usually starts in May, training camp usually April, a couple weeks after the WNBA draft, which has to happen in April, right after the Final Four of the women's game in the NCAA. So, I mean, it's a very kind of intense time frame, and we want our players to show up on time. So it was very important to the owners in the last collective bargaining negotiation to have the players show up on time next year for the start of the season, and the following year kind of come to training camp. And I always tell people I'm 36 years into my career, and not once did I not have to show up on time. The finals that just concluded went up by 53%. We paid $500,000 in the Commissioner Cup prize pool. I mentioned the 1.5 in marketing deals. So, and players are building their personal brands and getting personal endorsements. NCAA players will come in with these name, image, likeness deals and be making money. So we think with all of this happening, that it's a good time that this prioritization rule will go into effect, because again, we want players to build a championship culture and be there from training camp into the start of the regular season to build championship cultures to win a championship. And we want every team to compete for that. And it was important to the owners as we negotiated these, kind of upticks in player pay and benefits.
WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is with us at Game On today. Cathy, now we said it already, but this has been such an incredible season for the WNBA. Two GOATs are retiring. They announced their retirement this season, Sue Bird and Sylvia Fowles. Can you just talk about what they have done for the league, their impact?
Well, both Sylvia and Sue, I mean, Sylvia's just, if you've ever met her, one of the kindest people in the league, has kind of a gentle giant, kind of understated her impact on the league and as a player and as a big in this league. And so we're going to miss her, and Minnesota's going to miss her. And I know she played for other teams as well, but most recently Minnesota. And then Sue Bird, I mean, I always call her our Tom Brady, still was playing at 41. And so many years in the league and for USA Basketball as well. And just, a great representative of the league as well. And now this changing of the guard to these younger players like Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum and Brianna Stewart and many others. And the parity in the league was really good this year, with 4 teams fighting for those last couple playoff spots. And that's because of this big changing of the guard. And Sue and Sylvia, such great role models for now the next generation of players who are now already thriving and who will come in the next few drafts from the NCAA ranks.
Well, speaking of Asia and Kelsey, Las Vegas has proven to be a great market to support a WNBA franchise, and I know an expansion is on the horizon. What is that process like, and what do you look for in expansion cities?
Yeah, and it's it's a process that I've been thinking about since I joined the league. But of course, then we hit COVID, and we had 2 tough COVID years for the owners. And want to make sure new ownership groups coming in from different cities will have a huge chance of being successful in this league. We're starting to see enormous success of certain of our franchises as they've grown, and as the support for women's basketball and women's sports and the WNBA leading that women's sports momentum upward. And so, yeah, we've done an analysis of about 100 cities. You have to look at the demographics and the psychographics and the current viewership and the current fandom. And, and then you have to find devoted and committed ownership groups that are in it for the long term. We're excited. We've had a ton of interest from a lot of cities, which is a great sign and signal that this is the right thing to do for the WNBA.
Well, I am so excited. I can't wait to see it unfold. Cathy, you have done so much already as commissioner. What's next on Cathy's checklist? What do we have to cross off next?
We're focused on continuing the business transformation, Taylor. We still have a lot of things to negotiate around changing the valuation dynamics for media rights for women's sports and for the WNBA specifically. We need to figure out how to get our players marketed more. We spent a lot more money this year on marketing the players and building more rivalries. So a lot of ideations that's going to go on here in the off season leading into I can't believe I'm saying this, our 27th season next year. So many things on the list. But number one for me from a business perspective is get the valuation of women's assets, whether it's a placement on the court, on the uniform, a media rights fee, an ad buy, our merchandise, which is, selling out now, trying to make sure we're being valued correctly. And that's one of my big long-term goals is to disrupt the current valuation model for women's sports. And especially with our viewership so strong, we delivered the most viewed WNBA game one in 5 years, and that was competing against NFL opening weekend. It's pretty astounding, and we're doing it when we're only in 12 cities. When we expand to more cities, we'll get more viewers, more fans. So it's only to go but up, Taylor.
Only up. That's the only way we can go from here. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great talking to you today, and thanks for all you're doing.
What's up, YouTube? If you're looking for all things women's sports, subscribe below. WSN is the first network dedicated to women's sports, so hit that subscribe button and never miss a goal, bucket, or birdie.
Every athlete has a place they own.
Let's go!
The ring, the slopes, the barrel, the fairway, the field, and this court. And without a doubt, this court.
She makes it!
It's about time to welcome the first, the only
That was awesome.
Women's Sports Network. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh yeah, it's game on.